I know most of you know this guy.
Don't say that.
I I knew him at Howard, where we both taught. Yet it was through my students that I heard about him. And in my view, he is an intellectual warrior. He's a very,
Yes.
very, very excellent intellectual warrior.
Yes.
He has our history. It's like his brain is like bookshelves. Anytime that bookshelf is not popular anymore with the young generation, he has a bookshelf in his head, and he pulls it out like a slide, and that's how much, for me, um, he brings to the discourse on all levels, not only African American, African diaspora, but also continental, straight Africa, because he just got back from Egypt with at least how many people did you take?
Ken, about 105.
105 people going there and just terrorizing Arabs. Thinking they're Africans. Listen, I taught there for this every March for 5 years.
He's in that swamp with the
I know
Nubians.
we have to work on Egypt to make them realize they're in the middle of Africa.
Hello.
Not Saudi Arabia. So it's a long struggle we have to wage. But anyway, to come back to this situation, thank you, my brother.
Appreciate you.
I want him to really get us started. I'm sure he is going to use the film, but to me, the film, not many young people know the stops that James Baldwin took for. It's a very powerfully. I've seen it before, but today I realize it starts with Sterling.
Yes.
And ends with Achebe.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave this guy loose on it.
Okay, is this, there it is, okay. Well, I'm not going to say much tonight because the beauty of this space, that you and Shreek and everyone here has convened, is that for now going in close to his third decade, the conversation has been so powerful, and the work through this conversation. Can you all hear? No?
No, that was agreement.
Okay, cool. I see. Okay, I see
For
this.
30 years.
Yes, indeed.
Gratitude for 30 years.
Gratitude. Oh, yeah, gratitude. No question. There it is. Yeah, let's say the gratitude, please.
I'm scared of gunshots. It keeps firing something.
Actually, it's funny you say that because we saw that last clip there. That was at a Black Writers Conference in Miami. And as you heard, the feedback was coming through the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually written up. You're going to say I pulled this out of my head, but it is in there. In the Black Scholar, if you go to about 1981, I forget the volume, maybe the first issue of the year, Baldwin writes about what happened. Nobody knew to this day where that feedback was coming through. That sound was coming through the microphone. And these white dudes talking. And at first he's like, pardon me, and then you hear him say again, Baldwin, you can't come out here talking like that. It was clearly some white people talking. They think it was the police. Then that's when he was speaking back to them.
Yes.
The irony being, of course, that he's there with Achebe. And I'll confess, because this is good, we had to have a conversation. We saw Hoyt Fuller. A lot of people might not know who Hoyt Fuller is, but Peter Bailey knows because he worked with him. And I hope, Peter, you'll say something about the great Hoyt Fuller, the editor of Black World and Negro Digest. Perhaps to this day, the greatest publication that Black people have created, certainly in the 20th century in a Pan-African view. But a lot of people in there, of course, we saw Fred Shell's work. We got see Dave Dennis, of course, talking about, the Cheney brothers and what happened. We saw Hosea Williams, who, of course, that's right, Sigma, Kim is gonna always recognize the Sigmas, no doubt. But Hosea Williams was the field marshal in many ways of the civil rights movement. So his analysis of what happened in Atlanta isn't just somebody who wasn't there. He was in the front line. And so we saw all of those people. And of course, his brother David there was with him. But Chinua Achebe at the end, so powerful because when Baldwin is like, it's over, white supremacy is over, speaking from that global sense, I'll confess, I'll make a minor confession. I said this morning when we were in class in cyberspace. I have an ambivalence about Baldwin, not as a writer, not as a critic of America and racism. It's very powerful, perhaps the most powerful single voice. But in terms of, he once saw Sheikh Dr. Joe give a talk on the African origins of humanity, and he said, it didn't really move me. I wasn't particularly interested in it. I said, you missed it. You missed it. With Achebe, he began to see it. That water doesn't divide us. And so that righteous indignation that would lead him to continue to feed back into this funky ass settler colony that cannot be redeemed. Yeah. He found the solution there. But that was 1980. He made transition in December 1987. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think this society often reads Baldwin for the same reason it goes to the zoo. They like to see the ferocious animals as long as they're locked up in a cage or in a university syllabus or in a vet. But they never have to worry about getting mauled or hurt. They just like, oh, I'll say it again. Oh, it's so terrible like that. Yeah, but guess what? Nobody give a damn about your country. Let it fall. Yeah. These masses of black people, the brother in New Orleans, he's looking at the children. That's why he has this hope. Nobody in that journey was hopeless. Even in the projects in Brick City, they like, nah, we here. The solution to it isn't involved in that funky red, white, and blue. We saw that flag flying upside down with the Klan in Miami. That's the same flag Samuel Alito's funky wife was flying right over the water in Virginia. Upside down. Hell, go there now. Baldwin was excellent at talking about that, but feeding it back into the possibility of America, to me, that last piece with Achebe, oh yeah, that water doesn't divide you. You should be very interested in reconnecting that memory. Very interested in it. He didn't fail at all. No generation failed. But I don't want to say too much more about it because I do want to say this one thing and have you, if you might say some words about this. The great Sterling Brown at the beginning. Yeah. Even though it was small. See, this is a man who, I know you want to see all the outtakes because you know he didn't go over there for 5 minutes. He was talking, and plus, I thought that was Founders. Y'all shot him in the library. That might have been his house because you spent a lot of time in his house too. So maybe we talk about that. But when he said, yeah, if you weren't so conservative, I might call you revolutionary. Small sentence. But what did you make of Sterling Brown's conversation with James Baldwin? That's what I want to know.
That's the Founders.
That was Founders.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't in the office. Okay. Okay, because I know his office at the house was in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is right out.
That's right where y'all shot him. Say some more about that. And look, how many people have seen After Winter, the documentary they did? See.
Okay.
You gotta show that.
What we're gonna do is today.
Come back. You need a microphone, Bob.
Maritu, can you pass a paper? If you let me know how many people would want to see the Sterling Brown documentary film called After Winter.
Yes. Y'all all need to see that.
Yeah. Leave me your note, your name and your email address, phone, whatever, and we'll let you know when we'll screen it. Because we did screen it, but it was when the school was away. But this is literally for me Howard University. Yeah. This man is Howard University, and it's not accidental. Baldwin goes to see him. It's very powerful. So if you are interested in seeing the film, they'll pass a note, some kind of note, paper, sign your name, and we'll call you and tell you what day. Will it be Friday evening or Saturday afternoon like today, late afternoon? But you should see it's about 57 an hour film. Now,
yes.
No, for me, I really want
you want to put it.
No, I want you to talk more about why do you think he sees Sterling? I want to hear it from you, really, because to me, in fact, I was going to prepare you a small clip when Professor Sterling Brown speaks about James Baldwin when he visited him in that same place when we filmed him years later. He was older when we filmed him, but he remembers what he said to him. And I was going to prepare that clip, but I felt no. Let's just show one film, and then after winter, if people wanted to see it, we could do it again. And we could do it another time, so we don't sandwich everything. And I was impressed with. By the way, he didn't thank the young people. That was powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Begin, please. One more time. No question.
They was on their own. They chose what to read, and so we didn't influence them, tell them what to do. They did what they wanted to read. So that's something we should have.
Yes, sir.
Thanks to your madness.
Not me. Not me.
So what do you think?
Okay.
That
I'll say this quick because I think we do need to. Everybody, we're gonna jump in this and take the microphone around.
yeah.
And I'll just say this quickly. We didn't go through any of the biographical details. We know this is the month, of course, that James Arthur Baldwin was born in New York. 1924, made transition in December 87, which is interesting because those children in New Orleans, those who are still on top of the earth are in their 50s now, which means it isn't that long ago that we saw that film, that we saw them. Be interested to track some of them down, see what happened in their lives as they continue. Even to find Ben Chaney, who Dave Dennis says, accused of killing a white man. One more time.
He passed away in February this year.
Oh, was it February this year?
Yeah.
Ah, shit. Oh, thank you. Oh, see, that's
Probably like you, brother. So.
No. We try to be like each other. That's how we build together. No question. Thank you. We know Baldwin, of course, with Clinton High School in New York. Grew up 130th Street in Harlem. Spent a lot of time at 130th Street Library, of course. The two libraries were in walking distance of each other. The library we now call the Schomburg, and then down the street, around the corner, the County Cullen Library. He, very interestingly, becomes in some ways, I'm going to use this word, it's a little provocative, but it might fit. I think our friend Larry Jackson, who wrote the book The Indignant Generation, kind of traces this, as highly knows. He's been obsessed with that book. We've been trying to get Larry down here from Baltimore. Kind of like the pet of the white New York intellectuals in the 40s. They're kind of over Richard Wright. He's been back and forth. He's a celebrity. Ralph Ellison is emerging. Of course, we'll see Invisible Man in the early 50s. But Baldwin emerges in some ways writing book reviews, but he's left magazines as these New York intellectuals are looking for Negroes they can kind of be the patron of. And so they kind of put Baldwin on. He has spent a great deal of time with Black artists, Black writers, people like Buford Delaney, the artist. He's very close with him. Delaney is introducing him into these circles. This is a young writer of great talent. He's a fierce critic. He's a brilliant writer. He's also a gay Black man. And so people like Bruce Nugent and others, all other gay Black artists in New York kind of embrace him as well. So he's fitting into circles where you don't see a whole lot of Black people. At the same time, he's also interacting with these Black people from what Larry would call the indignant generation, Chester Himes, others in the 1930s and 40s, that white folk aren't really engaged with. And these white people are not dealing with Zora Neale Hurston. They're not dealing with Du Bois. They're not dealing with the Robesons or anything, but they're looking for somebody they can claim. Baldwin becomes more than they bargained for, but he spends his life on that razor's edge. To this day, very much celebrated, but also very much kind of marginalized. That you pick the Baldwin you like, and he overflows all the boundaries. So I said all that to say that by the 60s, of course, you see him talking with Fred Shuttlesworth, and you see him saying, I met y'all in the 50s, Little Rock, 57. And so he's engaged in that, close with Medgar Evers, Malcolm, and Martin Luther King. And so by the 60s, when you see him emerge with his essays, he's already written his novels. Well, he's written some of them. He's going to write his whole life. But Baldwin ultimately is like a witness. He spends almost a decade in France before coming back to the United States, and then going back and forth, places like Turkey, all kind of folks. If you ever his essay, Stranger in the Village, he's talking about, whiteness beyond the boundaries of the United States, which doesn't manifest this whiteness in the same way. And it allows him that critical eye to analyze this country. And there are people in here who are Baldwin scholars. I'm not a Baldwin scholar. I'm a person who reads like everybody else. And probably I'm grateful because the Academy will try to narrate him in all kind of straitjackets, including a straitjacket that will have him so committed to the idea of individual expression and our universal humanity that they'll miss the point of his severe criticism of white supremacy. And so in that process, Baldwin grows into this continuing critic of America, critic of global white supremacy, and lover of our common humanity. It's that love that really animates him. It's not the anger, it's not the fierce criticism, but it's the love. You can see it on screen. We see it, right? Just the joy and enthusiasm with which he's engaging with people. You can see him with their church choir when Shellsworth takes him over there and they rehearse him. Right? You see him with the children in New Orleans and Newark. You see him with his brother David, who, of course, David's father and his father, two different fathers. The Baldwin they're looking at in the cemetery, that genealogy comes through his stepfather's line. Of course, his grandmother was 90 when he came. He was the oldest of 9. And his mother married David Baldwin. You see his picture there. But his mother, 90 years old, she was born in enslavement. So he knows, people write about, oh, James Baldwin, you know, his grandfather was enslaved, or they won't say enslaved, they'll say a slave. But his grandmother too. So when Baldwin is saying, I'm returning home, coming to the South, in some ways that sensibility permeates him because he got that sensibility in Harlem. Those were first generation people who had migrated from the South. And so, you know, watching this, I think, for me, and then I'll stop and let's have some conversation about this on a Saturday night, on the day the UN has called the International Day for Recognition of People of African Descent. As we enter the last several months of a year that ends the decade of people of African descent, which is what the UN marked in the wake of the Durban meeting, where, among other things, the argument over who should pay reparations to African people was raised. And the United States, as we talked about this morning in class, but the United States sent a low-level delegation from the State Department because the person who wanted to go, whose wife recently made transition, who was from Birmingham, and that would be Alma Powell's husband, Colin, who was the Secretary of State, he wanted to go. Kofi Annan was the head of the UN at the time. This is 2001. August 31st, 2001, the meeting started. It ended September the 7th, 2001. Colin Powell wanted to go. George Bush and them was like, nah. The main person in George W. Bush's ear talking about we don't need to go because they talking about reparations and we need to move on for that was another woman from Birmingham named Condoleezza Rice. Condi Rice's father was the guidance counselor at the school where Alma Powell, Colin Powell's wife's daddy, was the principal, the segregated school in Birmingham. And Condoleezza Rice is in this devil's ear saying he don't need to go, we don't need to go. Colin Powell eventually says, I can't go. You know why? Because the American Israel Political Action Committee and Public Affairs Committee had been lobbying because at that meeting they said Zionism is racism. And AIPAC didn't want that in the agenda. And they forced almost 200 countries in the world who were meeting in Durban, South Africa to take that out the language. But it still wasn't enough for the United States. And so Colin Powell not only didn't go, midway through the conference, he writes a communique and calls the U.S. delegation back. Fortunately, there were many African people from the diaspora who were there. Conrad Worrell, Mashariki Jawanza, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. A lot of people were in Durban with that meeting of the Durban 400, as they called it. And so on that occasion of Durban, the UN began conversations that led to the declaration of 2014 to 2024 as the decade of people of African descent. And today, the 31st of August marks the International Day of People of African Descent. And so on that day, here we are in the evening of that day, having this conversation, looking at this man, not centering himself, but centering the people. And so it's probably best that we center the people at this point, maybe have some conversation if that's all right with you.
Danny Glover was there.
Yes, Danny Glover was there. That's right. No, sir. That's right.
I was there.
Were you there? Oh, no, why don't you tell us, man?
No, I'm not going to tell you. You told it so good, why would I ruin it?
Because you were there.
Excuse me, let me run.
I know we kind of like to say, excuse me. It's like when they say my friend. Yes.
Baraka.
Oh, you should say something. This Baraka was his friend. Could you tell us
Listen,
when you see
I'm
them walking
asking-
together? What do you
I'm
think?
a moderator.
No.
I just want you to say the way you're connecting this dots.
Oh, I see.
Why you would see, Tim, it's a very well choreographed journey that really also somehow, to me, it's like a spinal cord of his own evolution.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, as a filmmaker, the narrative of that film. I think that every time I see it. How
It was profound. To me, like it's the spinal cord. Even the criticism that you can bring at a time, like the places he went, are those, even in some cases where he dislocated himself out of, for example, the contradiction of being the new boy, the new writer in the block, and Richard Wright being the king of writers, the way the cherry picking and white supremacy divides artists.
Yes.
So he was a victim of that, but that's why he would go to Sterling. So the Sterling journey is a journey back to the black literature, in my view, of like, he is the priest of, especially left-wing black literature. So, go ahead, Baraka.
No, that makes sense. That makes perfect. I didn't mention this. I'm glad you said that.
Baraka is a Sterling student.
Baraka Sterling.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I initially said, why wouldn't he go see the Panthers? He didn't see no Panthers. He went straight to black power of the version of Baraka.
That's right.
And also because he was a literature person.
That's right.
Baraka is a writer.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead.
No, let me just say, when Baldwin was very sick, when he was sick in France at the very end, Julia Wright had reached out to him. Richard Wright's first novel had not been published. And he had agreed to write the forewords to that novel and another one. In some ways, I forget, it was Horace Porter. I'm trying to remember whose book this is in, where he says, in some ways, he thinks that was Baldwin making amends to Wright, who had been so generous to him, and who, like you said, they try to insert some kind of fight between them, but it wasn't really about that. Everybody's protest novel, of course, they're saying Baldwin wasn't for protest, he wasn't for. No, y'all always trying to cage our people. But he had agreed, but he was too sick to finish the prefaces. In fact, the proofs of the covers for the new editions were struck and made, but they had to pull them back because on them they said forward by James Baldwin. He just couldn't, with the stomach cancer, he couldn't finish those prefaces. But
I think with Richard Wright, I think he has a father complex with Richard Wright.
No.
And that did derail him briefly until he located back himself to say, is a continuity. I suggest you guys watch on YouTube Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin arguing.
Yeah. I love
I'll tell you this, mind you, first, Nikki is too young. This guy was deep about what he was addressing, but still she was good in the poking of the fire. And you have to see it. A lot of us want to even cut out Vicky and just string back together his view, because it's an amazing portraiture of himself. The things even, his values, his principles, illustrated in that YouTube show with, that Nikki Giovanni and him. Very powerful in my view. And he says, he was made, he felt he had to, at a certain point, he was having a problem with the elder writers who occupied the space of the cherry-picking machine.
Yes.
And then he overcame that, like many artists who mature in their work, he overcame it from the individuals having a problem with the individuals to itself. In fact, he even went to Paris looking for Richard Wright.
Yes. Yes.
And so, but they were both left-wing in my view. Yeah, in fact, I think both had entertained the Communist Party. Both.
Yeah, your Baldwin did have interaction with the Young Communist League as a younger man.
Right.
Absolutely.
How many of you have read American Hunger?
That's a hand. Yeah,
You folks better read.
Yeah.
You folks better read.
he loves American Hunger.
It's a very powerful book because he speaks about why he left the Communist Party. Because sometimes we think, certain dogmas and ideology will be pure of racism. The problem is racism is a silent cultural reality, and many so-called progressive and left-wing people are victims of it. And that book teaches really you to understand in terms of like, white supremacy is a bloodstream, almost indetectable virus traveling in both in black folks too. White supremacy is a virus, and sometimes we don't even know we carry it, especially in the century we're living now. We don't think we carry it, and therefore we take too much license bombastically and play around a white supremacy grammar that really is very, very counterproductive in my view. But again, it's you guys have to read these books and see what you can come out of it. So Baraka,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
was
gonna let you get
no.
it.
I was about to mention, but I'm glad
Baraka is Howard graduate. He was professor.
he's a Howard alum. I don't think he ever graduated.
Huh?
I don't think he graduated.
I think he did.
I think he left.
Then Toni Morrison didn't graduate. Then.
Well, let's not.
No, they
No,
did.
Tony got a degree.
He did.
Did she talk? Okay.
He did.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, of course, knowing Baraka, and if you didn't get a chance to see the convening at the beginning of the month, you all hosted on Augusta Savage. There's still people around, including some people in this room, I'm wagering, who knew Amiri Baraka. Eleanor Traylor was here, who's now in her ninth decade, very close friends with James Baldwin, his family, particularly his sister, Amiri Baraka. And she was here, of course, with Tony Cave's daughter, Tony Cave Bombara's daughter. And so that's tape is available on the YouTube channel, on Sankofa's YouTube channel. Me, that generation, Baraka, Traylor, Tony Cave Bombara, Eleanor, James Baldwin. Baldwin was one of the eulogizers of, Baraka was one of the eulogizers of James Baldwin at the Cathedral of St. John Divine at the funeral. That eulogy is in a collection of eulogies that Baraka published called Eulogies. So you can see all of his friends that he eulogized. I'm trying to remember who else. Some of y'all probably remember. Was anybody there? I'm going to say at the Cathedral of St. John Divine for the funeral of James Baldwin. It's being Sankofa. Okay, I don't think I think he's filming. But Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, and Baraka come to mind. Baraka, of course, very deeply involved in those left politics, Communist Party politics, Black nationalism. The academics would chop him up and say cultural nationalism is a meaningless term in so many ways. You didn't live through that period and have those fights. But academics to now go back and try to chop up the cultural nationalists and the revolutionary nationalists, it doesn't make any sense, really, in lived experiences. But Baraka constantly reinventing himself in some ways. Your friend and comrade, Louis Messiah, in his film, W.E.B. Du Bois, A Biography in Four Voices, one of those voices is Baraka writing about Du Bois, which makes it kind of profound that you say that Baldwin would go to Sterling Brown, who is kind of like the gravitational force that helps train that next generation. So he evades all of that mess and goes right to Sterling Brown. That's very powerful. Baraka, of course, is sourced by Brown through his engagement with Black culture, with the blues, with the culture of, I don't know what to call them, the folk. I mean, again, this academic language fails, just people. And so that relationship is born from a common love of the people. And unlike Baldwin, in some ways, Baraka's a theoretician who's also an organizer. So a lot of Baraka's work is about translating theory into practice. And so while Baldwin is writing and traveling and kind of being this voice in all of these spaces, although primarily, I hate to say it, but white spaces, the magazines, New York Review of Books, and Baraka is trying to institution build, still with connections there, but very much grounded in Black institutional spaces, to the point that some of these things turn into knockdown, drag out fights, and there are casualties. There are probably people in this room with some of the scars that came from those struggles. and the struggles to engage and translate Black power into electoral politics around Kenneth Gibson and Newark and Powhatan Towers and all that. And so for him to come through there in 1980, showing all these places that have not been rebuilt in the wake of the insurrection in Newark in 1967, not knowing that 5 decades later, almost, his son will be the mayor of Newark. And then reading that against how Hosea Williams is setting fire to the petty bourgeois in Atlanta and saying that integration was terrible. At the same time, the Hoyt Fuller, who moves to Atlanta after Black World closes, which was the publication that Peter Bailey and them were affiliated with, and Peter wrote for. I hope you'll say something about that, about Peter. At a time when John Johnson, who owns Johnson Publications, publishing Ebony and Jet, turns over what was the first magazine in his empire, Negro Digest, to Hoyt Fuller, who then turns it into Black World, scares the hell out of all the white people, and who call John Johnson like, either you cancel that magazine or we pulling all of our advertisement or support. And Hoyt Fuller gets drummed out of Johnson Publications, moves to Atlanta, and has a heart attack and dies in his park in his driveway after getting only a few issues of First World, which was the magazine that he crowdsourced to get funding for. But he's in this film sitting there talking with James Baldwin. Hoyt Fuller also a gay man who is talking with James Baldwin about how these Black politicians we elected seem like they're enriching themselves and not the community. What does it mean to have such a commitment to your community that you got people that say, oh, that dude gay, I'm not listening to him, or that dude a communist, I'm not listening to him, or that one right there is over there, I'm not listening. But these people are combined by their love for Black people to reason together, and I think that's really what we see in display with Amiri Baraka, whose politics would be perhaps very different in many ways than Baraka, with his brother James Baldwin walking those streets. That's to me what I would say.
Well, I'm going to open it in a minute.
Yes,
one more question for this guy. Again, I come back to Professor Sterling Brown.
Yes.
For me, even the poem they played, they come by 1, they come by 2, they come by 10. To me, in my view, unapologetically, if I really, the aesthetics of poetry and the kind of portraiture image he creates through his poem, going to him is really what opens the South for James Baldwin. Because correct me if I'm wrong, James Baldwin before that was a star visitor of the South. This is the first time he's a foot walker in the arteries of those places he actually has missed. And then he begins with blues portraiture of Professor, Sterling Brown. Just take it over and see if I can provide.
No, I think his interventions were very deliberate. They weren't casual in that sense. Like you said, like that brother over your shoulder, your friend Bobby Dick Gregory. Right. They're coming in as celebrities. Not in a predatory sense, but in a sense that we want to help.
Solidarity.
Yeah, definitely solidarity, no question. But Dick Gregory bringing plane loads of food to Mississippi. But James Baldwin, I'm going to open this up by reporting, as he says on the steps of that courthouse in Birmingham, I'm here so that this doesn't go unremarked upon, so that you just can't get away with that. We see the great C.T. Vivian, the fearless C.T. Vivian, challenging the sheriff. Hey, man, y'all not going to do this. And, of course, what they didn't show was him getting popped in the mouth, which we see in the documentary here. Actually, I'm glad you raised that height because it reminds me, the filmmakers who made this film said that they met James Baldwin in France, not here. Much of the footage, and we know this because if you come over here any day of the week, and hopefully not tonight, because when we finish, you should get some rest. But we don't know what he's going to do. He might be back to editing his film. All the money that they have to raise, y'all have to raise to pay for clips that you have to pay for. Clips of Ethiopia during the Italo-Ethiopian War. He's finishing that film now. Clips, but a lot of that footage they didn't have to pay for the same because they were in Europe. And whereas if they had been in the United States, some of the stuff that we saw, we wouldn't have been. You saw some of those reporters had English accents. They got that stuff from Europe. Some of the things we hadn't seen before that we saw there. But at any rate, Baldwin comes into the South like, I'm here to help. That's how he befriends Medgar Evers. And they become very close.
But his window is Professor Sterling.
His window is Sterling Brown. in part because he knows the value of Sterling Brown, and he's right. And you see that in a look when they're talking, he says, you know, Sterling Brown said, "I'm gonna learn a lot from you, from the South." Why do you think Sterling Brown would say to James Baldwin, "I'm going to learn a lot from you about the South"? Why do you say that?
Well, you know, I think to me, he always talks in double.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, Sterling is not somebody; he's a trickster. You can't trust the first line without its subtext. There's a primary, secondary, tertiary thing you have to unearth in one sentence. So I got, I was getting the message, but at the same time, he was actually the cultural historian. He was actually who wrote a lot about Black literature from a very progressive demand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I'm going to open it.
I'll take
sit down. Sit down.
Oh, yes, sir.
We ain't going nowhere.
See,
So who wants to go first, folks? Just anything that you feel is bothering you, or you get a clarification.
You're his junior, but can you ask Peter to say something? Because he can't just go back.
Peter, where are you? He's too old. Nobody knows old people. This is don't know great old people. Peter Bailey. Anybody who knows him here? Young people.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Any young person who knows Peter Bailey?
They know.
Okay, my brother. Can you tell them before he speaks? Can you tell them who he is? Let me hear you out. Since you said you know him.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Bailey, he has written many columns throughout the years. He is a freedom fighter. He's a revolutionary. He's one of Malcolm X's, was one of Malcolm X's top aides. That's pretty much what I know about him.
Good job.
Okay, I would like to say thank you for what you've done, and what you're doing to help expand our history in a way.
Get it close to you.
Time that I have seen. That
Get with the technology, brother.
Okay.
This is a close microphone.
Right
up in your
mouth. Yes.
I've seen the film for about 10 times already, and every time I get something from it. And the thing that bothers me most after seeing it is that one couple of sentences said in the film that we almost totally ignore. When they say that, this brother said that the important thing to do now is economics. Black people in the United States of America focus on politics and completely, totally ignore almost economics. And I would like to have seen when that brother said that, I would like to have seen more information coming from him, because this is where we really are lacking in 2024. We have more income than we had before, and yet we are still probably giving at least 85% of the money that we make in this country to other people.
Yes.
And we are not building, Black institutions where bookstores, grocery stores, any place where we own the place. And we are focused. We don't own it. That's much as a people, we still do not put enough emphasis on economics. And Brother Malcolm taught us that the importance of economics. He talked constantly to us about that the importance of us, of us keeping our dollars. He said we go out and someone does something to us as a people, we protest about it and everything, and when it's over, we go right back and give them, continue to give everybody else our money. So until we learn how to more effectively use our and as a group of people, let's be real. We have enough money collectively to do almost anything we need to do. We may not have enough to do everything we want to do, but we have sufficient money collectively as a group of people to do anything that we need to do, and we do not do it. Because we are constantly giving and in the film that brother says this, and I just wish that there had been a little bit more things in the film, because I think it was an incredible film. In fact, I think it should be required for film. Anybody who's serious about dealing with young white people anywhere should have make this seeing this film a requirement. And I'm not saying that everything in it is perfect. I'm 86 now, and I have learned that there's no such thing as much as I admire Brother Malcolm. There's no such thing as no human being is totally positive. Everybody has some negative things about him. And as much as I care about Brother Malcolm, he had a couple of negative things about him too. And so if I would say that he had them, then that means that the rest of us, have them. But I really truly believe that the thing that we ignore in that film, that Brother Malcolm, in his life, Dr. King, Paul Robeson, other C. Dolores Tucker, Fannie Lou Hamer, and other black, they were telling us that we've got to become more collectively using our collective economics, and we just do not do it. We give all income that we give 85% probably of it to other ethnic groups, and that's a disaster. And I hope that one of the things that we learn to do is to do that so that we can have places like Sankofa. All around. It's extremely important for us to collectively and more effectively use our economic resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll pass it around to
One second. If he thanks Sankofa again, I'll buy him a sandwich. The other thing I want to say to Peter is, okay, reparation is coming, and we're going to give them all of it too. Because in Oklahoma, Africans, who are called freedmen, Native Americans who are intermarried to black people, those who are not even intermarried, they have reparation to some extent, but they give it to the man too. The casinos is what you should visit in Oklahoma to see what's going on. So even there's going to be more money coming. They're ready to take it. Okay, sister.
Hi.
Not take it.
Okay.
We give it to them.
Yeah, I know. That's what I meant.
It's not that it's taking it,
No,
it's
I meant,
giving it to them.
my brother, lawyers are already opening a store saying, come to us, we'll sponsor you, we'll represent you for your reparation money.
Yeah.
And you know what that means.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey, thank you so much for what you just said. My name's Helene Johnson, and I'm a high school educator. And I know in this space, what I'm about to say, some of you might be like, what did she just say? Everyone cannot go to college. And what is bothering me at one of the high schools where I was once a teacher, vocational education, or what we now call career technology education, has gone. And it's bothering me because there are a lot of houses in Prince George's County. So where are the plumbers? Where are the HVAC? But this is gone at a lot of the high schools in Prince George's County. A lot of our students cannot go to college. How are we going to build economic wealth or economic development for our young people if we don't have career technology education? So for many of you that are here moving forward, if you know your young people cannot go to college, please start pushing. Please start going to the Board of Education requesting that career technology education is in the high schools throughout the county. Now, Ethan and Susie are getting it in Arizona or Arkansas. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But in Prince George's County, in Baltimore County, it is almost non-existent. So please start pushing for career technology education.
Why did that happen? Do you think?
You know why.
I mean, but Negroes are in charge, right?
But it goes back to what he
Go ahead, please. No.
It goes back to what the film is saying. You know, we have a lot of black officials in Prince George's County where I reside. Okay, but they've been boss.
Yeah.
So they're not about our people. And I say this all day, every day. It breaks my heart to be a high school educator, and as I call it, Ray and Shaquella, and their parents just don't get it. You know, and I hate to say things stereotypically, but you know, with the jeans down below, and as I'm now learning, it's loud in the high school. You all know what I'm talking about, young people. But the focus is not on educating themselves and owning their own, like you just said, Mr. Bailey. I teach this now. Own your own. I wasn't taught that. But how can you learn to own your own if you're not being taught certain things about how to go about developing to be an electrician, to be a cosmetologist? Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. Cosmetology is prevalent, but not HVAC. And, right. But our elected officials have been brought, and they're not thinking about the economic development. And right now, I'm only speaking about Prince George's County, where I reside, but I know it's throughout. And it's really, really sad. It just breaks my heart. And I know I'm rambling now, but I just had to say something because everyone cannot go to college.
No question, no question.
So please.
Well, my sister, I think to me, I know what you were saying. I think the problem here is even college is not anymore feasible. No, yeah, listen, most of our people are mortgaged to college loans.
Yes.
And they will die paying loans.
Yes.
And so for me, I think priorities of even education is itself in trouble. But the other part of it is, I mean, we are being given as an example of independent business here, Sankofa. But I'll tell you, if you go to the deep struggle of what we are going through to keep this place, first, all the white people who are now gentrified the area don't want black kids to play music here. They call who do they call the black officials that they have? So yeah, but I think to me, we elect the people. You elect those people, and I think to me they come back after they do listen, sister. After they do a crime, stealing money, they come back and you elect them again. And we have one now on Ward 8. It's inevitable, sister. To me, I think in Africa is more big now, more illustrated. The elite in Africa is voted by the people on ethnic ground, he's my neighborhood, he's my people. As long as he's black, let him do it to me. This is, I think, where at Sankofa, critical thinking is important. There's no black bank, so why would I tell you black business is viable? I can't now, because I don't see black loan coming to sustain me. All I know is that the white banks keeps rejecting us, even though our money is in Bank America, for example. But we cannot even qualify for a loan. So I think to me, industrial black bank is incapable of sustaining black financing. So to me, I think there has to be a fundamental revolution to rearrange up to down, down to up. Otherwise, what we are doing is, we want filmmakers to be independent. We push independent. My wife and me are independent filmmakers. But where does the money come? Well, who's the black producer who's connected to banks? So for me, even that, let's not idealize it in what I'm saying. I know what you're saying. I taught 43 years in that place, and I call it prison time. 43 years prison time I paid. I can speak stuff about Howard. But to me, what's very important is those things are really not the answer. To me, yes, we should encourage kids to do things. The plumber issue you're talking about, but sometimes I walk and I see all the postmen are black people, post office. And I'm saying, how long are they going to deliver to this gentrifying white people post office? So to me, black people, this service life, a revolution has to be waged against. I don't think black people should always work for this gentrified DC. Okay, we in fact, this is not maybe, it may not exist, sister. I'm being honest with you. My wife and me every month have problems here to sustain this place. Okay, so what's sustaining us is the black community, the So consistently, they come to buy books. Right here, every weekend, there are black people who come on Saturday, go to every black business and buy something. But in the end, the battle is bigger. What, for example, now, the white people in the back are reporting us to the liquor control, whatever, policing system. They're controlling, what? Abra. They're reporting us. And a sister told me, they keep reporting you because they're gonna evict you. They want your real estate. They want this building. And what they do is harass. We have city council that makes rule about begging is a crime. Instead of like gentrification is a crime, when it is based on resource accessibility. So I'm sorry, I went all over the place, but I know what you're saying. We push it. I want, we have to say study anything you are into. I can't tell them what to study, but at the same time, we have to tell them the actual larger problem to sustain independent idea. Black people have many ideas. They've been robbed for years of ideas. But to finance it with capital is a struggle.
Yes.
Okay, Puer, I'm sorry I talked long.
As we go into the back alley, remember in the film when they were in Atlanta and Hosea Williams was talking about Auburn Avenue. I know a lot of people here know Auburn Avenue. I spent a lot of time in Atlanta, and to walk Auburn Avenue and you see Ebenezer Baptist Church, which we saw there, and then of course across the street is the new Ebenezer, where Senator Warnock preaches regularly. The National Park Service controls all of that. It's very beautiful. It's very moving, but you walk from, say, the Hurt Building, where Morehouse School of Medicine has offices, and you come down past Auburn Avenue Research Library, the beautiful archive, all the history. You keep walking up Auburn Avenue. By the time you get to Ebenezer, it's straight hood. Yeah. Big Bethel was sitting there, and what you're raising is very important. Here, this corridor that a lot of longtime DC folk call the Nile Valley, and now it's Sankofa, it's Blue Nile, it's a handful of places. The institution across the street is not helping, because as it talks about Black excellence, it's redeveloping properties. They're going to send the property taxes through the roof. Yeah. And a lot of good rhetoric about helping the Black community, but the class issue that Williams demonstrated there, that he talked about as they took shots of Auburn Avenue, reinforces the idea that we celebrate Blackness in the curated, historical marker-fronted moments and pass by the reality. That wasn't around the circle. I was directly germane to what we saw. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alexia Pitter, an alum of Howard 2023. First, I would like to say, Dr. Carr, you were my professor, and you inspired me because you were the only professor that would sing in class like you were a pastor. And I was forever connected, and I really appreciate you. So thank you so much for making an impact in my life. I also want to say thank you to Sankofa, because I grew up in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, so when I saw a Black bookstore and so many people convening, I didn't know that existed, and this forever became my safe space while I was learning at Howard, so thank you. One of the things that I thought about when I saw the film was the idea of James Baldwin talking about the spirit, and the spirit moving from the south to the north. And then they later talked about the disconnection between younger generations and not knowing Malcolm X and the people that came before them. So as someone, I consider myself young, I'm 27, but I consider myself young. And I know something that I've always battled with is I feel the spirit of the ancestors that came before me and the scholars that came before me, but oftentimes I don't know what to do with it. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes I've heard my mom sing, and I felt her pain, and I've stepped, and I felt dancing, and I felt praise dance, and I felt it, and I felt my ancestors, and I felt what they went through, but I couldn't connect that to what I'm supposed to do with it. And even more specifically, when they talked about prisons, I work at a nonprofit for prison reform. My father's been incarcerated since I was 3 years old, and he has a 40-year sentence. And one day he said, you know, baby girl, I understand what it is to be my ancestor. I feel it. I understand to have somebody look at me and tell me to look down, to not have rights, to not have access to medical care, to feel locked up in my own body and being so disconnected. But what do I do with this spirit that I feel? What do I do with this pain? And I guess the question I have for my elders and my scholars, what do you recommend? What do we do with the spirit? Because I think that's a lot of times what it is. It feels so heavy that we just don't know what the next step is. And when we look at our elders, it seemed like they always found a way to do something with that spirit. And that's what got them through. So how does that get us through? And how do we make the most of that energy and that spirit that you guys passed down to us?
The younger sisters want to answer. You elders, they're scared to answer that one. It's a serious question.
Yes, it is.
It's something we underestimate. We don't really pay much attention, although some communities do pour libation, embrace spirits instead of, rebuffing spirits. So we'll talk more, I hope. Go ahead, sister.
Hi, everyone. My name's Madison Lyman. I am a freshman at Howard. So this is my first year. I'd like to thank you all for welcoming me into the space. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. This place reminds me a lot of home. It's the first place my dad took me to in DC to introduce me to the city before I realized that Howard would be where I go to university. But to, I guess, provide a bit of perspective on your question, that's definitely what I felt in this film, like the spirit. It reminded me so much of my grandma who comes from Independent, Mississippi, from my grandpa who comes from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and all of them, and what it's like to just go down there and be with them. And I think for me personally, what I've done is one, do my best to just continue the work in whatever way that is for me. Like back home, I was able to get on the reparations committee for my city as the sole ever student to be in that kind of position. I've been able to just really just continue the work. And I think kind of evolve upon it in my own way, whether that be my writing, whether it be teaching, whether it be reading. And so I think for me at least, it's up to us to find our own specific ways to be conduits of that spirit so that we are able to carry that on and impart that to you. I think it is amazing what our elders have been able to do, the testimonies that they have. It's important that we listen to them. But I think it's also important that we carry them on, that we don't remain in the places that they've been, but that we make sure that their spirit grows and our spirit grows with them.
Whoa, sister.
I guess to add a few comments to the movie. Recently, I've seen this quote for a while, but I saw it, I think on, I want to say Monday.
Get the mic closer to you.
Sorry. James Baldwin saying to be African American is to be African without any memory, an American without any privilege. And the reason why I bring that up is because of him circling back to Chinua Achebe at the end of that. I want to say that he says this before the film. And so then I feel like this film is kind of an editing of that quote, of saying, no, we do have memory. We are able to carry on that spirit and carry on that identity and make it our own. We are able to carry on these traditions, carry on these words, carry on these movements, and not only to like help our brothers and sisters, to help our communities and our families, but also to help ourselves and restore our identity. I think that's what touches me about James Baldwin the most, is his constant writing about identity. What does it mean to be yourself?
Yes.
What does it mean to know your name? What does it mean to take up space in the body that you have, with the mind that you have, with the heart that you have, with the love that you have? And I think this film, to me, was just a great illustration of what it means to go back and take all that this world has tried to disconnect you from and retrace it, and realize, like, no, I know where I'm from. I know my people. I know who we are. I'm able to define them outside of this colonizer language that we've adopted and call our own tongue. And I think, yeah, that's what just touched me the most about it.
My name is Josiah Jacobs. I graduated from Howard last year. Dr. Carr, it's good to see you again.
Always about.
You have no idea how much being in your class inspired me to continue to do the things that I do. And I just wanted to say that you had articulated that how do you find what your role is in the struggle. I think that for me personally, I think that when you understand who you are and you know that everybody has their own role to play in the struggle. You know, everybody has a unique role and position. So I think it's important to remember that. And whatever your unique talents and skills and traits are, that can always be beneficial to what we got to do to get to where we need to go. And I also wanted to say that, Malcolm X said a long time ago that the white liberal is like a fox. And I think that me being from San Francisco, I've seen a situation in which blackness has been pretty much eradicated. My grandmother is from the Fillmore district of San Francisco. She grew up there in the 1950s. And she always asked me, why have I stayed out here? And, I always tell her that, it's more people like me out here, I feel comfortable. I don't feel like an other everywhere I go. And she always says to me, we used to have those things too. We used to have our own. And my grandmother isn't even somebody who's necessarily all that political or even just thinks of things in that way. That was more my grandfather, who was from the South. But I think that we need to be aware of our spaces. You hear the white people trying to eradicate this space. We can't let that happen because, this is who we are. We have a rich history that needs to be passed down. And they'll do everything that they can do to eradicate who we are and what we stand for as a people. So, that's why I'm glad everybody's out here tonight, because this is what it's all about. I'm so happy to be in this space and to be around everybody and just learn what I can. So it's, yeah, man.
You, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm Maddie's roommate, and she's James Baldwin's number one fan, which is why I'm here. And I'm really happy that we ended up making him here. Oh yeah, she's my cousin, by the way. And I'm from LA. I'm also a freshman at Howard, more specifically Inglewood.
All right.
And I just wanted to answer the question about hope, because I've had to question why, as an 18-year-old, why is that something that I struggle with, pain and hope? Pain, what do you do with this pain? What do you do with the struggle? And I've had to tell myself, baby, you gotta turn that into hope. Because places like this represent hope. We are sitting in the middle of Chocolate City in a Black-owned bookstore, and we have all of these resources. we get to sit here and celebrate James Baldwin's 100th birthday. That's the third time I've talked about it. But I say that to say that you have to turn the pain and the struggle into hope, because it's the only thing that we can do with it. We have to turn it into art. We have to turn it into something beautiful. And because this pain it's generational. It's passed down. The mental health issues are passed down. My major is human development, so Black mental health is something that I am trying to build up. I'm trying to make sure that it's something that we get to talk about. And in a space like this, we have to turn everything that we saw, all the pain that we saw, into something beautiful, and that starts with hope. So when you have nothing else to do with your struggle, you have to wake up the next day and say, what is one thing I hope for? What's one thing I'm grateful for? And what am I going to turn this pain into?
Howard freshman, dangerous time, brother. One second, hold the mic there. One more here, the sister. Hold one second. Hold 1 second.
You moderate.
Little Bailey. Carr, I'm the moderator.
I know it.
I'll bring the mic to you. 1 second.
I just wanted to say that when I spoke earlier, I talked about the importance of economics, and I should also have added that equally important is culture. One of the things that we talk a lot about politics. We basically almost ignore culture and we ignore economics. And those two things, if you have those two things doing correctly, you will almost automatically do the right thing politically. You know, if you have a cultural awareness and an economic awareness, the rest of the things you will do without even having to be told about them. So I think that we as a people, have a tendency to it. Like I said before, we're giving the impression that everything is about politics. And that's all we talk about, and everybody gets involved in it. And I think that we should do that. And I also like to add that as a Malcolmite, I'm glad we are paying tribute to James Baldwin on the 100th anniversary of his birth. On May 19, 2025 will be the 100th anniversary of the birth of Brother Malcolm.
You will lead the event. I assure you. 1 second. Oh, sorry. I thought you wanted the mic. 1 second. There's a sister here. For the mic. Take care. Oh, announcement, by the way, tomorrow we have an event called Gaza in Our Mind. Please come. There's going to be discussions. It's for artists, poets, and writers to come and present their solidarity expression with the Palestinian people. So if you're into that, please come back tomorrow.
What time?
It will be announced in a minute when Maritu, can you bring the announcement and then we'll do it after this? Go ahead, sister.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, Davina.
Hey, Bill. I want to stay around when I'm in front of anyone. My name is Davina. I happen to be a third generation Washingtonian. My mother is a Howard alumni, and she did get her. And I'm a third generation Washingtonian. My mother, she got her undergraduate from A&T, and she got her master's from Howard. Growing up, I have to say, she never spoke of Howard, even though she had 2 degrees there. Everything was Aggie. And I'm sure the Howard guys like. But I grew up here, HU everywhere, you know what I mean? Outside of the home. But, I went to high school down the street at Theodore Roosevelt Senior High School. I graduated in 2000. And we graduated, hey, girl, we had our graduation ceremony across the street at Crampton Auditorium. And, I did have I'm saying all that to say that as a DC resident, I never felt the impact of Howard University being in my city. I mean, straight down the street. You know what I mean? I mean, all my life, I've seen so many people come into this town and they're like, I'm from so and so across the country, and when I'm here, I'm gonna be an educated person who cares about people and stuff like that. But really, you know, I've been that girl who's walking down the street who who didn't attend Howard or maybe didn't, you know, well, I speak properly, but at the end of the day, there's a distance. I feel kind of cynical when it comes to, you know, Howard University students because at the end of the day, I don't connect. I mean, all of my life, the people that grew up like me, you know, we were just regular inner city girls. Most of the people that I knew or grew up with, we didn't go to Howard University. All of the Howard University students are from elsewhere, from across the country. Many of them, they tend to not be from neighborhoods like this neighborhood in Howard University. Growing up, you know, all the guys would say, you know, how guys and gals and, you know, children stuff. Oh, the Howard girls, they're so much prettier than you, and they're so much this from you. So it was a disconnect, and I even have always felt a disconnect from just living in the District of Columbia. Oh, well, you live in Washington, D.C., so surely there's no poverty there. Surely the politicians, especially the black politicians there are, you know, surely what they do reaches the people. No, not everyone. I really have seen a lot of people just enjoy the rhetoric. You know, rhetoric is lots and lots of fun. And at the end of the day, I don't want to take that away from us because this is, you know, it's the Mecca. We all should come together. We should be educated and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, have we placed value in ourselves to the point where we actually, you know, have placed ourselves in our surroundings? So for instance, okay, helping an old lady across the street here, you know, slightly intervening, you know, if we see one of our people kind of having a debate or a situation or a quarrel, surely, what's that scripture that says a kind word can kind of turn away wrath? You know, it's just as simple as, hey, don't even worry about it, and it's done. But I feel like so many of us, that's not the kind of action that we want to take. We want to take the kind of action that, you know, other people can see. We want to take the kind of action where we feel safer. But the thing is, we have to see one another supporting one another. And also the other races have to see us doing that as well. We have to, just like I said, take action. If you are trying to, you know, calm some people down, or just don't do the whole like stare and freeze thing that the other people are doing when it comes to us. Because we do that and they see us doing that too. We have to place value in ourselves. We have to place value in, you know, our businesses and things like that, because in our homes. Because if we're not doing that as parents, our children are going to do that, and it's just not going to happen.
This is a serious freshman. You heard that? We'll talk more. You want to go? So, yes. And then after that, we're going to make an announcement before we lose everybody. Go ahead.
I'm not going to say it long. I'm going to say it short.
Good.
My name is Maxine Smith. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm Morgan Knight. I lived in New York for 60 years and Baltimore. And now I'm on my grandfather's land in Amelia County, Virginia, that he bought in 1908. Come on. He bought 200 acres of land. In 1985, I decided to move there from New York and make sure that another group of people would not buy or take grandfather's land. 25 generational wealth is something that we have to consider. I think that economics, as this man spoke about, should be our forefront. I think if we stop buying, we could shut this country down if we, for 1 week, said, no, I'm not going there. The fake Jews, excuse my expression, have ruined our society and our culture. We can rise above this. And I think if we learn how to respect ourselves with our inner spirit that says, no, you can't do that to me. I'm better than that.
Yes.
We can do this. So generational wealth is something we have to develop in our minds. And if we can invest into buy some land someplace else and build your own institutions. Thank you. Allow me to come.
Thank you. We just want to make an announcement and then we have a few more minutes after that.
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna keep this short. I do want to thank everybody that came out, that participated. Gashele, thank you for putting this together. Dr. Carr, thank you for making this successful. Thank you to each and every one of you for choosing to be here with us. We do have a lot of events coming up. Please check our website. It's sankofa.com. As Gashele started, we do have Gaza on Our Mind coming up tomorrow, hosted by Jordan. He was here somewhere earlier. There he is. Yes, hosted by Jordan. Basically, we want to make sure that we create a space that is for all artists in the DMV to be able to come and stand in solidarity and express themselves.
You're talking about gentrification. You don't know how many of these gentrifying forces are looking at that radio station. So we want to fundraise for them because they're always financially in trouble. So come by, enjoy the event, and then donate to them. It's not for us, just for them. Go ahead.
Yes. And second, Gaza on Our Mind coming up is on September 15th. It is a bi-weekly event, so it's every other Sunday. And on that one, we're going to be screening a Palestinian filmmaker by the name of Michel Khalifi. I'm sure I'm saying the name wrong. His film called Malul celebrates its destruction. It's the 1984 documentary film. We will be screening that film and followed by a discussion. So please make sure that you sign up, you RSVP. We also have David White.
And the filmmaker is internationally known filmmaker. You know, there's 3 or 4 Palestinian filmmakers. He's the best filmmaker. And the advancement of the Palestinian struggle.
Mike.
Yeah?
Mike.
Mike, yeah. Mike is Mike.
September 20th, we have David White and Edge Theory. Last night, David White and Edge Theory band, they were here. We had a wonderful night. Some people were in attendance, yes. September 20th, please make sure that you come out and support this wonderful musicians. Some of them are Howard graduates. The lead musician composed the soundtrack music to Sankofa and Through the Door of No Return, a film by filmmaker Shiriki Amanulima. So please make sure you come out and support. We also have October 5th, Daniel Williams film retrospective here.
Yeah, he's a very important filmmaker. He came out of Howard. He was a professor at Howard. He's in Bowling Green. We're going to do a retrospective on his work. Daniel Williams, keep an eye, and then come to see the film. There will be young filmmakers who will be here also, who not necessarily young, but very established filmmakers will be here.
And also on October 7th, we will be doing the same thing for Amiri Baraka. We'll be celebrating Amiri Baraka's birthday. So please make sure you come out and support and partake in that as well.
And then we're planning Richard Wright's birthday.
Yes, to be announced next week.
Zora's is going to be revolutionary because we're going to show film of things we discovered. One thing I want to tell you is that St. Augustine, the slave market you saw there, that is a very powerful historical site. Even earlier, who is from St. Augustine, Florida? Okay, well, there even the amazing history about Marunaj, runaway Africans who had a fortress, is also connected to that area. We're doing a film on it. It's on runaway Africans who fought back with armed struggle. If it doesn't, they don't scare you, we'll have their film is being made. We'll show maybe some clips from it. But that place is also where Andrew Young was beat to death in the civil rights time in the that slave market area. There's even a marker where he got beat up bad. And so that's a historical contention place. It's very ironic. James Baldwin goes there and he's in a conference there. Yeah, very interesting. And you finished?
Yes, but I do have a question from one of our viewers.
We're getting
yes,
high
online.
tech.
Told you,
Yeah.
it's great.
I hope it's for car.
No.
Well, it's from Matthew Omowale Anthony. And the question is, what do you think James Baldwin's most enduring message is for our times today? Especially given that during his time, most of his audience seemed to be white folk.
Oh, not this audience. His audience, he said? Did he say his
Especially
audience or
during
this
his time.
audience?
No.
This audience is all
No,
black folks.
That is true. Well, first of all, obviously, thank everybody for coming. Thank you, sisters, for coming and sitting out front. Medicine, yeah, I know a lot of your people in Kansas City. Yes. Kansas City Black United Front, they're my people. So, yeah, I know that spirit is strong. Yes, white folk put Baldwin on, but he never compromised who he was. So, a lot of people might not know, like Giovanni's Room, which we heard earlier, the reading from, there are no black characters in that book. But like August Wilson said, I'm not writing for a white audience. I'm writing out of my black experience to whoever wants to take it. And so Baldwin belongs to us, to the world. But I would say this, there's a quote, and I agree with you, Master. That closed the loop that you said, because that's been the thing that's always stuck with me about Baldwin. That's the one thing, bro, you were this close, you were right there. And he was getting there. I don't know if he ever was not there, but yeah, that recognition, as you said, very, very well. Baldwin had a quote, and this isn't going to be verbatim, but it's very close. He says, I don't remember the first time my mother was taken from me. I remember crying. I don't remember crying. I'm sure I did. He said, but love helps you recognize what you do not remember.
Yeah.
Black people love each other. It's not that we hate other people. And he says that I don't hate white people. But let me be very clear about this. We're the first humans on the planet. Everybody who ever walked this ball came from us.
Yes.
So if you and your deep pathology, whether it be a punk like Bull Connor or a punk like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, that's your challenge. As Baldwin would say, your racism traps you too. But love, that love for humanity starts with our love for ourselves.
Yes.
And Barbara Peter didn't say a whole lot about it. But for a man out of Alabama who spent so many years, decades between New York and Chicago, who was there when Malcolm was assassinated, who has carried their work on, it's only love animating that element. It's love animating us. We have a love for humanity, but it starts with our love for each other. I think Baldwin's demonstration of love, as we see in this film, that's a message for Black people. If other people over here, that's beautiful. That's what I would say.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay, my brother.
Thanks, y'all. And sis, don't say, look, DC,
everybody.
you're right. We gotta have a better relationship.
Thank you. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother.
Turn it on.
So I would say with regard to the film, it made me ruminate and think with a lot of different emotions.
1 second. Let
Excuse
those who want to move, and then you go.
Okay.
So we can hear you.
Brother Kevin got the last word.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Excuse me, can we quietly exit,
So I
please?
just want to say it made me ruminate as I got into the film with a lot of different emotions: regret, anger, sadness, hope, a little joy that we could come together and take that that walk to the south so we can remember forward, as Dr. Carl was talking about. Because one of the lessons learned for me is the goal of integration was to break down these barriers so we could get into certain places. But that cost us our economic base, our institutional base, and in so many other ways. So that can be a lesson learned as we move forward and rebuild our own institutions. Spiritually, economically, key, and politically. All those things must be married together with our own cultural values in mind to allow us, when we get that economic base, do we run to the suburbs to somebody else's community to build a home or a business there? No, we put that money back into our own community. Because if you remember, the civil rights struggle was largely funded by Black business owners because they were plumbers, they were electricians, they were barbers, they were hairdressers. So they took that money from their own pockets and put it into these organizations.
Yes, sir.
So let us remember that. Let us not forget. The home in the suburbs should not be the goal. Pure material success should not be the goal. And when you have the culture that Brother Peter Bailey talked about, then you will automatically contribute in that kind of way. So that's what I took from the film.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll close with that. So much more we can say, but that's enough.
Well, I have something because I have to, what? Oh, sister, you want to say something? You?
Yeah, I did actually.
You?
It was fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you. Good evening, everybody. I'm a native of the District of Columbia. I'm an alumna of Xavier University of Louisiana, part-time until 2011 in psychology pre-medical, so the Black mental health is a priority. I would posit, y'all know Dr. Gerald Ball with Kirk if he was in here, right?
Oh, I'm sure you would. And I'd love to have Jerry sitting right here so we could dance.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Make sure that's on the recording. But he's not coming here because Sankofa's reactionary petty bourgeois Negroes. You know how the class extremists take.
I'm crying.
You make sure you get the tape. Send it to Jerry so you can play it.
Right.
Go crazy on it.
Right. But in the spirit of
It's all love. It's all
Right.
love. Don't worry, he'll get you.
in the spirit of fairness, that's why I came to defend his position while he's not here.
Oh, good. Then
Like,
we can talk.
not that I fully agree that his position is, for those who are not familiar with Dr. Gerald Ball, he's also an alumnus of Howard University, professor at Morgan State University. And his position is that Black capitalism will only lead to us copying the society that that colonialism has established. We're establishing that society as a microcosm within ourselves. And Baba, I think that you really just answered the point that I was dying to make all night, is that unless we have decentralization, but I'm posing this. I don't disagree with the need for Black capitalism, because according to George Jackson, dual power is probably the most practical approach to revolution.
Yes.
And Lenin studied what ancient African societies and posited them as model societies. Wonder why how Stalin got his power when Lenin kind of left this world. Anyway, that being said, I think that it is that yes, we need it because of dual power, but the danger in prioritizing Black capitalism as opposed to using it as a temporary strategy towards the ultimate goal of decentralization. Someone mentioned having a role and a place for each and every sort of talent. Someone mentioned that there is a place for each and every trade. That someone mentioned that there is a place for each and every position in the spectra of economic viewpoints. And I just wanted to throw, in the interest of being fair, I want to defend Dr. Ball's position in that is that Black capitalism cannot be the end goal. It can be a strategy towards a decentralized society. My name is Courtney. Thank you all.
No, I just want to ask Courtney, if you don't mind, because I know Jared a long time, and so
I know.
I know you do. As a professor, as one of his colleagues who spends dollars the way he spends dollars in the Catholic Society, who has tenure like he has tenure in the Catholic Society, who has health care and a retirement plan like he has health care and a retirement plan in the Catholic Society, who works at a private institution that doesn't have the basic supports that he has as a public institution in the state of Maryland, who doesn't have a mortgage for a home in the suburb like he has in Maryland. He broadcasts about the capitalist critique. I like Jess, my friend, which is why I wish he would come back here sometimes instead of saying that this is a kind of bourgeois institution that is kind of counter-revolutionary and isn't bleeding edge. I think the last time they were here, they wanted to broadcast their hate awards from here. No, I mean, look, I was on the hate awards a couple of times, but the idea being that when you attract the kind of when you attract the kind of fascist attention to something that might have done, you might have jeopardized the physical space. And we had to fight when it was about 3 or 4 years ago over the property taxes. Yeah. The District of Columbia tried to raise the roof on these property taxes. That's right. We brought out here to get an abatement night because these Europeans and their colluders, including people across the street, I'm not saying that they're in bed with white supremacy at Howard University, but I am saying when you convert everything into condominiums and don't even have housing for your children, you have made a commitment to a capitalism that makes every scholarly study where you vomit out of your mouth some critique of the place so ridiculously ironic that a man like Sterling Brown would sit for the last decade of his time at Howard and clown everybody there, which is why I hope you all get a chance to see after winter so you can see how Sterling Brown talks about the institution that treated him with such disrespect. But you gotta listen closely, as you say, because every sentence got about 5 different meanings, and he's clowning everybody the whole time. But I'm saying that as a preface to this. Every time that we've been in conversation with Jared, it seems to me that my fundamental question is, ultimately, where is your concern for the people who are in harm's way because you are not? That's my question for him in terms of the electoral politics we face right now. Clearly, we see the contradiction in electoral politics. Clearly, we know that's not the end. But I'm glad you quoted Jackson on the dual question, because I never hear him do that. And I'm saying supporting third-party candidates, Claudia De La Cruz, I understand that, whether it be Cornel West, Jill Stein, whatever. Cornel West just got on the ballot in Georgia. This is a problem. Because Cornel West is not going to win. Jill Stein is not going to win. Claudia De La Cruz is not going to win. Either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is going to win. If Kamala Harris wins, that means Medicaid is expanded in Georgia if they get the legislature. But what is it? Did I misstate? It's not. We hope, right? But there are those, and Jared would be included in this, who say that it's a duopoly. You shouldn't vote for either one. He would say that, right?
Yeah, he would. Okay,
to me, that is saying also that my ideological rigidity trumps my grandmother's insulin. And to me, that's a problem.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that with my friend. I want to do it in public. Make sure that goes up because I'm sure they're going to chop that up on Friday when they do their deliberation. They're going to try to but I want to be there.
I think I want to address your freshman, the two sisters. I'm going to address the Howard issue the sister talked about.
Can't hear this one. You can hear.
Hello? You can hear me.
Okay.
Get that?
Hold it right.
Okay, give me.
This is louder. And Bill, I think this was louder. This was louder, right? This was louder.
Let me, no, don't worry about it.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say is this to you, sister. You're young. You should be a student of history. You should, dogma is not religion. Dogma does not take you to a human face revolution. That's right. Revolution is with human face. Any fascist who talks about revolution does not mean they're revolutionary. Just because in America, anybody can claim on television who they are. The issue is what are they doing? So to
Yes.
me, the point is this, capital is needed. If you don't have capital, you cannot respond against oppression. I didn't say capitalism, nor I didn't hear anybody talk about capitalism. To me, we don't want to go into that world because that's how petty bourgeois black people spend their time talking shit.
Yes,
The point
yes,
is this, when you
yes.
work in the community,
Come on now.
black people need
Yes.
capital, whether to make revolution or take care of the community, young people, like the brother who was having his head touched. I was almost in tears when this kid was touching his head, and he was touching their head. To me, like unannounced, non-American love. American love is always proclaimed. I love you. I love you. It's the most boring word in my life.
Yes,
I don't use it. I touch a person to
Yes.
show them I love them. I get near my proximities. So to me, this whole shit that is very American is declaration always,
Yes,
loudly.
yes.
But this brother was having this kid touch his head, those small hands. That's revolutionary for me. Black kids, when you pay attention to black kids, not when they're shot and you're marching with, some fashion show designers, pants and shoes and this and that, and petty bourgeois slogan that is never ending. I'm talking about real black people love is touching, feeling, and feeding you, taking care of you. In fact, the sister who spoke about, she's from DC, she's really, there's two things she was talking about. Caring.
School days.
Yeah, caring.
Right.
Caring.
Fast.
At Howard, I've been there 43 years, I told you, taught now, 8 years or 10 years since I left. But there's a class issue at Howard.
Oh, yes.
They always want the student, they warn you about the black community.
Yes.
It's like, let me tell you, USC in California is in the middle of a black community.
That's right.
So they have a whole fortress for white kids to go to school there, keeping black people away. And there's a lot of times outbursts come. They try to bribe black people with cultural centers for blacks to go to. The thing about it, Howard, is when I came to Howard, I said, dang, when my students were telling me they were afraid of black kids from DC, I said, this sounds like USC to me, where white kids talk about black people. So the class thing you was talking earlier is real. I think that when somebody was saying about the thing you were talking, my sister, about the education issue, like degree and this, the class, to me, in the African American struggle and in the African struggle, the biggest war is going to be not with white people. It's the black people they clown as a class. The buffer states are going to be them. Our cousins, our fathers, our mothers who are into that class are going to protect the system. This election is going to show you a glimpse of that. So to me, let me just say this. I think black people at all times should be deliberate, should not be gullible about anybody. The other day I said, people that disagree with me, I said, Kamala Harris is Obama in skirt. And I was in trouble. And all I'm saying is a critical discussion. Obama really got away with a lot of murder. Black people are nice to their own people.
Yes.
Had Obama been white, we would be talking about him like a dog the first
Like,
time.
he didn't do this, he didn't
Yeah.
do this.
So to me, this race thing is one thing. Class thing is another thing.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, I think Howard kids, especially you freshmen, you have to break this idea of the inner city black people as aliens. You have to invite them to your party when you do it. There was a problem when Howard kids give party, they don't want the working class DC folks to come to their party. That was just, to me, sickening stuff. Of course, most of my students were progressive, where I taught filmmaking. Most of my students are making amazing documentary films. They're progressive. They're very, very aware. They came from Detroit, Oakland, everywhere, aware before they even came to Howard. But Howard nurtures class difference, barricades black kids to say, be scared of the black community. And let me tell you the other thing. Howard may not be here because white folks want to gentrify Howard.
Yes,
They're surrounding
Yes,
Howard. They're surrounding
They
them.
closing in.
Yeah, they think they're here eternally. White folks are planning DC
Yes,
quietly. They don't have to show their
So, you know
power.
what? It's not
the way-
even quiet. It's not even quiet anymore.
Yeah, well, Black Power, you know, we announced Black Power 1,000 times. White folks silently pronounce power by doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
This whole area is being taken over under our nose. And I'm saying it's very important that Black people develop alternative capital to respond to oppression. To make movies, you need money. To make a spear, you need money. To buy a gun from China, you need money. So I don't know what kind of revolution he talks about. He was going to beg the White House guy Biden, Mr. Biden, give me a gun. I want to make a revolution against you. This is a joke.
But when we
It's a joke.
start trying to have the means to help each other, you know, with our own capital, look what they do. Look what they do.
Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street.
Sister, I was in Tulsa filming this whole history. So as far as I'm concerned, let's not be confused. Sometimes we get gullible. It's very delicious. To be bombastic, Black people think it is delicious. No. When you see bombastic culture, pause for a second. Why is he so bombastic? Why is he gullible? Especially for me, Black people from here to Africa, Brazil, have to stop being gullible. That's one word I'll tell you. Like he was talking about economy and culture, gullibility. Don't go in quickly any door opening because you just gotta say, why is this door opening? Why? What is the motive for me to come in to do what? So to me, you know, you will be always protected by your own idea of saying, I don't trust this door. Who opened it? Is it me who opened it? Am I opening it or is it being opened for me? Why? Critical thinking. At Howard, I always felt the best we could offer students that come like you guys is to make you be critical thinkers. I'm telling you, you two can critical think. I don't know. I'm going to talk to you when you come back again. When you're here, I'm going to sit with you and want to know your grandparents, your mother, your father, because you come nurtured well, sisters. You really, you don't know how. And I want to say this to you. At Howard, let me tell you, when I left Howard, he knows this. When I left Howard, first, Howard, I didn't have to go to Howard if money was my priority. I was in Berlin offered. I was at CalArts offered to be dean of film school. But I wanted a Black school because I want to come across the Black kids I'm coming across. That is why I chose Howard. The salary is bullshit. Howard pays you nothing. My ordinary, when I travel, I make more money to speak at a university or an international conference. So for me, what I know is the best part I got from Howard is the precious Black kids like you two.
That's true.
There are many. They're my friend. One just left, was in tears when he was leaving. He was here. He shot the film Selma, cinematographer brother. So for me, you guys come prepared, more be critical thinker at Howard. You always have to say why. The teacher teaches you something, dogma, you say why. My favorite students are critical thinkers. And I tell them all the time, when the students began to be alien to me, I stopped teaching. Not when retirement, nothing. The president didn't know I was gone. He was calling, his secretary says, Professor Greenlaw, your president calling you, you're supposed to be a professor who respects the president. I left Howard. What are you guys don't have documents? I left Howard.
To be fair, I was Wayne Frederick.
I don't trust presidents at Howard. I've seen 10 of them. The big, the tall, everything. They come in all sizes. The point here is this. To me, why did I leave? The students start changing on me. This I have to tell you because it became, I start seeing social media, television, digitally captive prisoners coming to my class. Instead of those critical students that challenged me, Now, they say, the first day of class, what grade am I gonna get, Professor Green? And I said, oh shit, now I'm leaving. That's when I left, because most young people are not raised by their parents. The Oakland young sisters and brothers that used to come from there, Detroit, I used to even know when Detroit and Oakland young people are dangerous when they first come to school. And I started seeing conditioned black kids, formatted black kids by digital thinking of the way that it's formed. So I said to him, I told him, now it's really culturally prisoner of wars that are coming to my class. I consider them prisoner of wars. So when I did this with my wife, we try to steal from prisoner of wars to come and be faced by these books and by these films that we show. But today, I want to say this to you. I know all of you were precious. I'm glad, we saw you. You amazing sister talking about that land. I want to shoot a film on your land.
I want you there.
Yeah. So to me, I really do. When you were talking about the land, I was thinking about photography.
I'm thinking about you too.
Thank you, sister. So to me, today, the two of you, I'm telling you, he himself, I was watching him from there.
Not gonna trick me though.
Yeah, listen, I was watching him from there. Because his class sisters.
Yes,
He's
for
one
y'all.
of the revolutionary teachers.
Yes,
thank you very much. No, seriously, I meant it.
I know.
Peter Bailey, Justin
Thanks,
Gibbons.
everybody.
Peter.
We're gonna wrap up. I guess that's it. He walked off. That's it. He dropped the mic. So thanks everybody for coming. And thanks everybody who streamed, who watched. It's great.